If you've been playing games since your childhood, you probably experienced a level of immersion that only exists in this type of media. If I was a game journalist, I would describe it as the you'll actually feel like X and Y phenomena. You know, those strangely reductive but still widely used sentence structures that instead of detailing what makes the experience immersive, just give you a vague notion and leave it to your imagination. Like something along the lines of, you'll be so immersed you'll feel like you're the frickin', I don't know, sword in the bonfire of Majula. But what does that mean? You gonna be pretty hot and shit, but besides that, how are you gonna feel? What makes you tick? How do you deal with the existential dread that comes with random idiots lighting you up? Sometimes it's really hard to describe this sense of immersion due to its abstract nature. And I gotta say, this was a problem of mine when thinking about the topic of this video. The game and, well, the series in question is the most obvious example when it comes to discussions related to atmosphere and the establishment of it. Me hinting at Majula was actually an intentional attempt to act like I know how to connect thoughts, like a normal person. I wanted to talk about a really specific feeling conveyed by video games, by using one that I have returned to multiple times as an example. My reason to revisit it over and over again was unknown to me for a long while, until recently. Souls games feel lonely, melancholic, sometimes even hopeless if you haven't git enough. And setting foot in Dark Souls 2's Drangleic once again awoke a sense of loneliness in me that was strangely relaxing, to an almost Minecraft-like level. Let me explain. Dark Souls 2 is an incredibly flawed game, and I'm not even going to sugarcoat how many problems I have with it, from the strangely behaving hitboxes to gank bosses that can feel cheap. But I'm not here to talk about how the Pursuer's Greatsword is a heat-seeking magnetic version of my father's belt. I'm here to talk about atmosphere, loneliness, and the calm that comes with it. Every Souls game is an intimate journey through a land that, just like the stepdad of a previous girlfriend of mine, would rather have me killed by a third party. Joke's on you, you fuck, I'm still alive. This itself fuels the tension even more, as most beings you encounter are there for your souls and bodily fluids. Most of your travels can be summed up as cautiously running into places, dying, then cautiously, for real this time, entering the aforementioned spot, and killing things. Rinse and repeat. Combat and traversing the environment is stressful, which is not helped by the fact that the entire journey is spent in silence. Heightening your senses to any small environmental noise that could mean danger. This is of course intentional from a design standpoint in many ways. Adding music to most areas would murder the atmosphere and relegate the tension to a much less prominent role, as I don't think you would be as receptive to environmental noises or footsteps. More up-close and personal boss fights are of course accompanied by music to hype you up or to convey the severity of the situation on an emotional level. This duality is wonderful. Boss encounters, while painful, are also rewarding. The build-up to a boss and the fight itself should be the culmination of your adventure in a specific area, and therefore, the music also serves as this huge cathartic boom that elevates the encounter further. But there is a specific area in Dark Souls 2 where it plays a rather different role compared to the previous cases. Majula, just like Firelink Shrine, has its own track that slowly lulls you into calmness. It's a wonderfully simple number that I think ties the entire area together in a really special way. It conveys a feeling of detachment and stillness for me. Just like you, the bearer of the curse, seem to have a lot going on at the moment, Majula's musical number is reserved, quietly shifting like the lingering thoughts of someone lost in his head, all alone, somewhere. With the occasional small outburst of sound that brings a slight catharsis into the mix that feels a bit more tense and plummets back into silence once again straight after. It's like sitting on the shore by a rock, laying back and just letting the music and water wash over you calmly, while thoughts just swim around in your skull, with the occasional overwhelming thought kicking the door down, but you notice it and get rid of it as soon as possible. The music would not work in a place that doesn't harbor the same qualities though. Majula itself is bathed in sunlight, adding a comforting warmth, but also a sense of cold in my opinion, which is due to the subtle coastal wind and the muted color scheme that just makes sunlight feel a bit powerless compared to the vivid colors of the bonfire, for example. We're playing a Souls game, so it shouldn't be too comfy. It is a juxtaposition of calm detachment and the dangerous world of Drangleic. Literally, there's a giant gaping hole sitting in the middle of it. Also, the pigs next to the mansion can murder you on your first stop to Majula. On the other hand, however, it's located next to the sea that continuously hammers away on the cliffs of Drangleic's shores, contributing to the everlasting decay of theirs. And also the structures far into the distance like Hyde's Tower of Flame that is sitting there as a battered monolith protruding out of the water. Firelink Shrine felt similar, as you could see a huge part of Lordran while standing on this little stone peak in the middle of nothingness. Majula, however, seems a lot more focused on establishing calmness and detachment with all these different elements to contrast with the game's overall tension and stress that comes with chopping dudes up.
But there is something greatly comforting about that flame. It seems to fulfill something very precious, deep within the soul. Something essential.
You're surrounded by an overwhelming amount of history and locales that are all mysterious and unknown to you. You're surrounded by people who can help you out or fuck you over, but you still feel detached from them. They are also from a world alien to you, with the only link between you being the curse of the undead. You're an insignificant speck of dust in a giant world. Alone, on that cliffside, gazing, among a multitude of people. You might be looking for something similar, but to me it always felt like I never got to know these people. They don't necessarily want to know me either. Even when I get little glimpses of them, they feel like they don't belong, just like I don't. But I can't do anything against me not belonging, and they can't either. The more and more time I spend in and around Majula, I just feel like I connect with it on an emotional level. A place that connects individuals of different backgrounds, but not deeply enough. Just a fleeting sense of familiarity remains as everyone is out there, following their own stories, as long as their memories allow. It also changed how I approach Dark Souls 2. I'm an anxious dude, so I'm incredibly tense in most combat situations, panicking, making a lot of mistakes. But Majula has this strange sense of calmness to it that permeated into other parts of Dark Souls 2 as well. The tension that usually comes with these games has disappeared and was overtaken by a strange feeling long lost. Dark Souls 2 invokes a sense in me that I haven't felt in a long while. A sense of wonder, akin to traversing Arcanum, Cyrodiil, Morrowind, or even this fucking humongous giant city that's the capital of the country I live in. Dark Souls 2 is a strange beast. While loneliness and a sense of insurmountable odds have been staples of Souls games, for some abstract reason this one feels the most special to me. Probably because its world is just so utterly fucking lonely in a cohesive way. The stories in these games will guide you through kingdoms that are way past their prime. Once proud creatures that are now suffering and slowly withering away but are still fighting you with the last fiber of their being. Abandoned, weathered locales and beings. Drangleic, however, is probably the one that feels the most abandoned and left behind to me. Lordran is a tragic, decrepit place. Its majestic nature, however, shines through in many ways. There is still the occasional glimpse of grand monumentalism, and while Drangleic still has those moments, most of that grandiose is already lost. To me, it's an even more decaying and hopeless place. Every boss feels like it's been withering and wasting away in some sort of basement below a tower or down in a system of caves, stranded there for multiple lifetimes maybe. Time itself doesn't really matter actually. I always imagine the ages of Dark Souls as different states of existence. You don't look at them from a chronological perspective by saying that, I don't know, 600 years before Wiener Bob 69 hath brought it the age of darkness. Good git ex pussy wrecker fell down on top of an old man in shaded woods, forcing him into a wheelchair for the rest of his life. I don't know. This and the fact that there are multiple planes of existence going parallel to each other renders the entire world just frozen in time, further adding to the detachment factor. You played the game for 20 hours. Okay, but in the game you can't tell for sure if that was 20 hours. The sun never sets, the weather never changes, certain places are stuck in constant darkness, some are always sunny and bright. You're stuck. Alone. left to explore and learn about this once beautiful land in a pace that even you can't make heads or tails of. I'm listening to every minuscule noise made deep inside dark caves. I'm climbing its crumbling towers as I wait for the potential ambush from behind corners. I'm walking its woods, anxious, alone. But for real? What about summoning? I think summoning as a mechanic for boss fights, for example, works wonders. It's a momentary sense of jolly cooperation that disappears right after a triumph, our souls withering back to the timeline and realm we truly belong to, leaving you in silence, completely alone. There are also the ones who prey upon your vulnerability, knowing the exact same thing. A fight for death that once again ends with one of you hitting the ground and turning into dust while the other remains in place. Stuck in the mundanity that just got interrupted like a few minutes ago. Back to that again. A bunch of people, disconnected, all looking for the same and occasionally finding each other. You might disagree with the things I just said, and that's totally fine. These elements are prominent in other games as well, but they never stuck out to me as much as in the case of this one. As personal as any From Software game felt up until this point to me, Dark Souls 2 captures how I feel when looking down from a 7-story window at 3 AM. When reality is bearable. It's calm. Calm that, however, will gradually turn into a storm when my brain wanders out of the room. You can be surrounded by a multitude of kind-hearted individuals. Some days, however, it's going to feel like you're on your own. Stuck in a concrete block, maybe one that is on the prettier side, but still, just stuck there. Time feels stuck, but it passes by like a freight train in a rush, as the only thing you can do is ask for a glimpse of someone, before it ends and you're left in your domain once again, in the dark. How is this related to Dark Souls 2, you might be thinking? I guess it made me realize how, well, contrary to what I've been talking about, loneliness isn't always all that bad. Even if it's always terrifying to me personally. There is comfort to loneliness. Having a quiet room for you can offer the final shove to start writing that video you couldn't finish for literal months and are still working on. You can finally start vocal practice or making music. You can dabble in art when all of it starts feeling suffocating. It's not going to be fun all the time, but this is when the occasional piece of magic manifests itself and you extend yourself into a realm that's quite like your own. You find yourself, you find peace. Others are looking at you and it's strange. You affect them and they affect you, and it's incredible. I never did anything with these lonely, fleeting episodes that can sometimes feel like eternity, or sometimes rush by me in like mere seconds. But now that I do, I can feel something that I don't think I've ever felt before. I feel complete, and that is incredible. Thank you for watching.